3rd, 2019. First item on the agenda is public comments not related to anything on tonight's agenda. I see no hands coming up and I have no cards, so I'm going to take that as a no. Second item on the agenda is election of a chair. And first, I want to say it's been a pleasure and an honor to be the chair of the HRB for the last 2 years, and I appreciate all of the support and help that I've received from staff and the other board members. I thank you all. And at this point, we need nominations.
I nominate John.
Any other nominations? Do we need a second on the nominations? I'll second.
Okay. You guys have done this more than I have, actually, so.
In the absence-
I nominate John's reactions.
In
No, it's
the
fine.
absence of additional nominations, shall we
call
call
for the
for
vote.
a vote?
Do we allow John to comment first?
I think I have to
And
abstain.
speech.
Yeah,
Speech.
that's,
Yeah,
I'm
you
thinking
can
that
vote for
too.
yourself.
No, it's fine. It's all good. It's all good.
Okay. Board member Stobie,
Yes.
board member Met,
Yes.
and Chair Basinger.
Yes.
All right.
Now, former chair.
Former Chair Basinger.
Well, thank you. I'm humbled. And as my first note, I'm canceling all meetings for the rest of the year.
Woo-hoo, I like you.
Isn't that awesome?
And I can give you.
So
the
do you hand up,
notebook
do we do
that I have.
a thing of passing the gavel?
Be
You
the
know,
mayor
No,
I
you
don't know.
might beat me with it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all good. I mean, I did it for so long before, and I was all about trying to be quick, right? And Ken's been very good about that. So I say we just keep
Carry
rocking
on.
and rolling the way we go, and holy cow, the baton.
There it is.
You know I'll never look at all this.
No, you don't
You're
need to.
supposed to.
Here's how I do this. This is.
Oh yeah, the quasi thing.
Yeah, that one you need to keep,
That means I gotta bring my glasses.
but you don't need that one.
Okay.
And you won't need that one tonight either.
No, it's not a public hearing, right? There's none of that stuff,
Nope,
right?
it's
Right.
advice,
Yeah.
So you have a colored sheet of paper which separates you from the next item on the agenda, which is right there.
Yes.
Jeez.
Okay. You're all right with that, Ken? And you're done at the end of the
Perfectly all
year?
right with that. Yeah.
I want to
Okay.
say thank you to Ken for
Yes.
his fearless leadership this past
Same
year.
here.
I have to say that's true. I've been on this board with Ken many years ago, and it was super. I don't think you were on the county board with me, right?
No, I wasn't.
No, that was,
I was chair about, God, 25 years ago, or something like that, I don't know, a
See.
long time ago.
yeah, I've done this too long.
Or his stroke was really historic because they were still new.
Well, all groovy, so we'll keep it moving as fast as possible, right?
Okay.
So then the next one is item 19-436, preservation grant, 1903 preservation grant for siding and window repair at 526th Street.
Really?
I don't know.
520.
So we'll turn it over to the staff.
Oh, I didn't know that's
I don't know.
what he was
I really did want to cancel all the rest of them, so it'd be great.
Yeah.
No.
You have that authority.
That's a quick way to get kicked off, right?
There we go. I don't think we're gonna get our light settings though. Our dimming.
Oh, the dimming, the ambience.
It doesn't seem to be working for us. Okay, so this is our third preservation grant we've heard this year, although it is the second one for this grant cycle. So we have $5,000 per year. We've awarded 1,000 already for this cycle, and the request we have before us is another $1,000 request. You know what, I put my PowerPoint in the wrong order, so I'm gonna skip the first few pages. So our grant request is 526th Street. This is the Joseph Sawyer House. And it actually is a duplex, or there are 2 units that are connected. And the grant, the subject of the grant is really on the section of the house that's newer, that was built later. The address there is, it looks like 525 Washington. But it is that addition is certainly over 50 years old, and it has, integrity itself. So you can see the front of the house and the side of the house here. So the second unit is kind of this area here, and the work is relegated to mostly this area. So the grant request includes repair and repainting of the original siding that has been uncovered by the homeowner. If you have seen the property lately, you'll see that old siding has already been removed. So the owner has already done some work on the house, and the work that is the subject of this grant hasn't been done yet and would be the second kind of phase of the project. So it would include filling in the nail holes where the plywood siding was attached to the original siding, and then, of course, preparing and repainting that siding. And the second part of the grant is reglazing and repainting of 7 original wood windows. A lot of the windows have been replaced in the past with newer wood windows, but these 7 are still the original wood, and they're in good shape aside from the glazing and the peeling paint. So here's a photo of that original siding that has been uncovered. And then here's 3 of the 7 windows, just to kind of give you a taste of what condition they're in currently. So I recommend approval with no special conditions for this one. These 5 conditions are standard conditions of approval: that the property remain designated, that you display a sign on the property while the work is being done, that you complete the project by May 31st, 2020. And actually, since we're on a 2-year grant budget cycle, you can extend that if you want to, if you need to. That you report the grant as taxable income, and that the grant is only for work that that is not already in progress or completed. And I didn't mention though, but the applicant did submit 3 bids, 1 with very little detail, but 2 with some detail. And the bid that is preferred by the owner is over $2,000, and so this would be a 50%, less than 50% of the project cost. And the contractor is licensed in Oregon. That's all I've got.
Okay. If the applicant wants to come up and say anything, please do. Just state your name and your address.
Troy Bollinger, owner of the property at 5206th Street in Oregon City. And if you look out the window, you can see it right there. It's right there on the corner.
Yeah.
Which I think is important to note because it's on the corner of Washington and 6th, which makes it very visible, which means it contributes in historic value to this community extensively, with people driving by all the time. So Kelly did a good job of laying it out. Some of the work is on the front, on the outside, a little bit on the back, but mostly there on the front. And for some reason, years ago, they put paneling, 4x8 sheets of paneling over the top of that siding. And so I've worked really hard to rip it off. And in doing so, you can't just pull that stuff off and the nails pop out because it breaks off in pieces. So we had to grind the nail heads off, pull the paneling off, and then 1 by 1 pull every single nail out of that thing. So it's been an extensive project. That's not the part we're asking for the grant for. The grant would be, like Kelly said, to fill those holes, take care of the wood, the glazing on the windows, and get it ready to be painted.
So that bid that you want to go with, for the 55 or whatever, or 50.
57, I believe it was.
Yeah, and they talked about power washing. I don't know if you can do that for lead. I don't think you're. allowed
They're
to.
doing it with, they are following the lead guidelines, because that was something I was very particular about. In fact, in the bid, it states specifically they will follow that. I don't remember what the size of the plastic you have to use for lead, but
It's
they
tough
will.
with power washing because the chips fly.
Well, no, they put power washing, it's gonna be a light power wash,
Okay.
more to, if you actually were at the house, you'd see that some of the chips that come off are literally this large.
Yeah, they're big, huh?
Like, they're big.
Sure.
And so just a light wash with the pressure washer, but nonetheless, a light wash will remove most of that, and then they will be scraping and sanding
Yeah,
to bring it down, and they'll be putting the plastic down, removing it as they're
Sure.
required.
it's in pretty tough shape, huh?
You know, it's interesting. It is, and mostly, I think what happened, if I remember the story correctly, and you can kind of, I don't know if it's in these pictures, but you can kind of see some of the pictures that you find online from the city and different things. This had cedar shake over it at one time. And when I bought the home in 2011, if I get my story correctly, the owner told me he pulled that cedar shake off of the front, and this is what you found. And then some of the paneling on the the additional part that we were talking about was put on way back when, and he decided to leave it. And so what we found is we pulled everything off. The wood is actually in very good shape. In fact, I have to say, part of the enjoyment of that project was as I was cutting and patching and different things, I could smell the wood from way back when, and it still smelled fresh. I mean, it's all in great shape. But they did put some holes in it and different things like that that will be fixed.
Smells some lead. Yeah.
But it's good wood. In fact, some of it I saved for other projects.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, I used to live in the Petzold house for
Okay.
years and years.
Okay.
And we knew the Lombards that lived there, and
Oh, you know, that lived in my home.
is Helga Meyer or
I
something?
think it's Helga, I think was her name, or yeah.
Yeah, I knew her,
This cute little couple, I understand. And,
yes,
Yeah. And then he passed, and then she
Yeah.
got put in a home, and then
right.
So do you live in the front
I live in the front, which is the main part of the home.
and then you rent the back?
I rent the back, and it's about 700 square feet. That was done before, I bought it as is.
Sure.
So you live in the main part of
I live in the main part of the
For some
home.
reason, I was thinking you were living in the smaller one.
No, I live in the main part, and I own the whole
Whole
property.
house.
And then I rent out the small portion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
in it, maybe-
Which I understand used to be the back entrance of that house once that addition got put on, not the original. In fact, it's interesting because in that unit, I've left the wood countertop from about the 1950s, the sloped wood that goes into the sink. So that's still in there too. So it's kind of fun.
Groovy. Anybody else?
Nope, I think it's pretty
Thank you.
straightforward.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions about it or talk about it or any issues or?
I would make a motion for approval with the criteria stated by staff.
My second.
Ah,
Okay. Board Member Stobie,
Aye.
Board Member Mitt,
Aye.
Board Member Basinger,
Aye.
and Chair McLaughlin.
aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Now, the stipulations, just so I understand, was the dates, right?
So I'll be in touch with you, to get you the paperwork and let you know what your next steps
It
are.
will be done, and you'll see a nice new coat of paint by the end of August, so
Great.
Cool.
drive by.
You making him work too?
He has done a lot of work in it,
Cool.
actually.
That's good.
Yep, that's what we do. We do it all together, but
That's good
hiring,
work.
I don't do painting, so I'm hiring the painting and the preparing and all that. I'm doing the easy stuff where I just, destroy stuff and then they get to make it pretty. So, I
Awesome.
know my strengths. Thank you very much.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
So the next thing would be item 5. PC 19-66 Historic Review Board Policy Changes.
Okay. So this should be our last meeting on the HB policy changes. The version that is in your agenda today has been reviewed. The last draft was reviewed by the planning commission, had no comments. City Commission had a few comments that are reflected in the changes that you saw. And then SHPO reviewed it and had one comment related to where we referenced National Register properties, and they just had a clarification on how we should word that. So, and they looked at it and said, this looks fine, you know, it does not, in SHPO's opinion, you know, it fits in with our historic preservation program and would not result in any issues with our certified local government status. So I believe I attached the SHPO email to the agenda packet. And then one of the comments from City Commission was, you know, some of this doesn't sound exactly clear and objective. It sounds a little bit discretionary or gray. And so we changed some of the language and actually went through some of the policies that we haven't touched to date. We looked at those and saw that there was some language in there that, you know, was a little bit discretionary. And so we changed that to really be black and white so that it's simpler for the property owners and so that when we're doing the staff level review, it's all very upfront and out in the open, and no one can question our decisions to say, oh, well, I disagree, that's a subjective, you know, decision that staff just made. We don't want them to be subjective. So if you have any questions about any of the additional changes that have been made, we can talk about those. And then I have a handful of outstanding items that I just want to bring forward. So I can do that unless there are anything you'd like to bring up.
To me, the red line version is pretty clear, and I think all of the changes made are appropriate and are an improvement.
I would agree with that.
I've read it a couple times, and it's like you could keep doing this over and over and over, and
And
keep
tweak it,
keep
tweak
tweaking,
it.
keep refining, keep trying to accommodate everybody, but the reality is it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's a lot clearer than it was going in, you know, and
Yeah.
the graphics, the visuals and stuff really help
Yeah.
for those people that are architecturally challenged. I mean, for
Right.
JQ Public
Is
that.
that really a thing?
Huh?
Architecturally challenged?
Well, you don't
Yes.
understand terms, you know.
Yeah.
And I learned a couple, you know, with that Gabion, you know.
Gabion wall.
Gabion, see, I'm still learning it.
You
But I
are
mean,
architecturally challenged.
you know, I am not architecturally challenged. But, yeah, so I think it really, really helps. And the clarification also like on in reference to lattice. Which in the past, there's lattice, and there's lattice. So I think that really
Need some
helps.
latitude in your lattice.
Yeah, there you go.
Lattice started somewhere, right?
Well, it started
Historically.
square.
It started square and it
Yeah.
started thick,
Yeah,
and
so,
you can still get it.
so yeah, so I think that's good.
Okay, so I'll walk through the 4 issues that may or may not be issues, but so the first one, solid wood fences in the front yard and corner side yard. So the current policy, today's policy, does not allow this, only allows wood picket with spacing. Our last draft said you can have solid wood fences in the front yard as long as they do not block the view of the house.
Right.
So we thought that language was too subjective, and so we struck it. But if the board still wants to allow these fences when they don't obstruct the view of the house, our suggestion is to perhaps add change the language to, permitted when the top of the fence is below the grade of the front entry of the house. So then that's a really clear kind of measurement, that would result in it not blocking the view of the house.
Below the grade of the door?
Below, so the top of the fence would, like if the house is raised.
Right.
Yeah, so it'd be below the grade of the bottom of the door.
Right, but that could potentially be a fence that's very tall.
It could, well, so the 3.5-foot height limit would still apply.
Still
Right,
apply.
that's why I was asking, I'd
Yeah.
almost be willing to say 3 feet, but that might be too stubby for some people.
Well, that's elsewhere in the city code, though.
So the policy has a 3.5-foot limit in the front yard,
Yeah.
and the overall city code has that same limit.
So for the most part, if it was a solid wood fence and it's at most 3.5 feet, it wouldn't obscure,
It probably wouldn't, right? So the one question is, do we even need this clarification?
yeah,
Probably
But,
not if it's already
you
there,
know,
right?
so
because
this-
anybody can see over the top of a 3.5 foot
Unless you're
fence.
really short.
Most people can,
Yeah.
you know, unless you're a little kid, but
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah.
And most of the time, I think if people are gonna do a fence like that, they're gonna do something that's a little bit more decorative or more open than a solid.
Yeah, so this example up here, like this one would probably not,
Oh, I need to
Meet
get over
that,
too.
this fence is probably not lower than the door.
Oh,
And
it's
then
hard to
this
tell.
one, it is hard to tell. And then this one clearly is below where the front door is. And so that's an example of one that the policy would allow.
Yeah, but like the one in the upper left, someone's taking a picture low,
Yeah,
you know, so I think if
Yeah.
you're more
Yeah, it looks
level
like
to
you're
the
sitting in
door, it
the
would look
car.
right.
right.
Yeah, if you're
So
sitting in the car.
it might actually
Yeah, you
be
would, so
below
I,
the door.
that's all good.
So I guess the board has some options. You could, so right now, the current draft says that these solid wood fences in the front are only allowed for non-contributing structures in Kenema. So if you would like to allow them at any time or if for any property, then we would need to change that.
I don't see anything with it.
I've seen a couple that have come up just recently in the McLaughlin neighborhood and I think they look fine.
Yeah, I think maybe the
I
only
don't-
time that it would block the view is if the house is actually lower.
Right,
But any fence would do, but with pickets,
Right.
you'd be able to see,
Yeah.
I got
should
you.
be the road here and the house is sunk
Yeah,
down or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that, but,
That's such an exception to the
right.
rule.
This one in the photo on the right that's a contributing structure in Kenema.
It is, yeah.
And I don't have any problem with that fence.
No, I don't have any problem with any of
Finished
this
very
stuff.
well.
And yes,
Yeah.
only the post should be PT, that's a for sure.
Okay.
I mean, I'm jumping around, but
So for solid wood fences in the front and corner side, should the language be changed to be permitted generally on any,
Throughout the.
throughout,
the district and for designated properties?
The only thing is the way that the lower one is, you can see the pressure treated.
oh, the bottom picture?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
And there's some way to, because a lot of times when you do your picket fence, the pickets or the
will cover it.
posts are behind, and so
Right.
you don't really see it.
and
On
sometimes they're
something-
wrapped in cedar,
Well,
but most of the time it's like this.
Most
Oh, it
of the
is?
time,
Yeah,
But seeing that to me is,
but see, if I saw a fence and I see them where you've got the fencing all on one side and hides everything,
Mhm.
that's kind of not a very attractive fence. Whereas like this one's got a little bit of definition and character to it.
but I've seen them also, where it's just, in fact, there's one and they've got a nice top edge
Yeah,
to
like a
it
top
also.
cap.
Yeah, a top.
Yeah, and there's different types, but really, you wouldn't wanna
Okay,
use cedar.
I just seeing the pressure treated, I don't know if we wanna do anything where if the pressure treated posts are visible, that maybe they can wrap them or something, or at least where it's, visible from the public domain.
Yeah,
And I
I
don't
think
know
a
if
lot of
that's
people do that, but I think also
Splitting straws.
we've been out in the field, taking photos and seeing a lot of fences. And even like nice picket fences, a lot of them do have the pressure treated posts.
It's kind of a necessary evil, they're ugly, but they really work and nothing else really works in place of them. I mean, you could put cedar, but cedar will eventually rot after some
I'm
years.
experiencing that right now.
Yeah, these, I mean, it's kind of part of, structural that it's
Okay,
important.
I just thought I'd bring it up because it is a visual,
It is, but I think
component,
it's just like, it's kind of the thing, right? You gotta
Okay.
do it because it's
and the evil that goes
the
with it.
right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine.
Because you want the fences to have longevity.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of how I look at it, is the sacrifice of using, I wouldn't use it anywhere else.
Right.
Like a lot of people sometimes will use the horizontal rails as PT, but then it bleeds onto the cedar and then it's like, it should
Yeah.
only be the posts.
Yeah.
So that's the clarifying, right?
So
Would
we'll,
everybody agree with that?
Okay, that's fine. I
would,
just, just wanted to bring that up to kind of
okay, so we'll add a
discuss so that
sentence.
we're
And
good.
it says here that they're used only for the post.
Right.
Or clarifying, yeah.
So we will add a sentence to the fence policy to do that. And then for the solid wood fences in the front yard, just want to make sure I got the right direction from you, that we would allow it throughout the district and on any designated structure. And then do we want to specify that includes vertical boards only?
Yes,
Okay,
I would,
Yes.
yeah.
okay, great.
Was that all of it, like that you had?
Two more things, very quick, I think. So, post and rail versus horizontal board. So the current definition of post and rail that we have written in the draft policy is 4 or fewer, well, we said 2 to 4 horizontal rails. So, for example, this one has 2, this one has 4, so those would both be considered post and rail. And we talked about maybe allowing these in the rear yard, and then we took it out and said, post and rail fences or split rail fences are not permitted at all, even in the backyard. Now, horizontal board fences, horizontal wood, are listed as acceptable in the rear yard. So these two would be permitted, whereas these two would not be
In the rear yard.
in the rear yard. And I just wanted to clarify that we're okay with having this horizontal board definition be 5 or more horizontal boards so that it differentiates it from the definition of post and rail. Or
We're splitting hairs, man.
I know, but we I don't
Yeah.
want to I don't want to make it confusing for people to say,
I'm
because
confused.
there's a fence in Kenema right now, I think that was recently built, that has 5 or 6 maybe horizontal boards.
Spaced, like
There's
this?
space, there's
Yeah.
probably 8 inches in
Oh, yeah.
between, so it looks kind of like this, but it's taller. And so, some people might call that post and rail, but I just want to be really clear on the definitions.
Got it.
So, I don't know if what we meant by split rail was more like this style, like very rustic with the unfinished wood. And if we want to try to write it so that something like this would be allowed, or if we're okay with just keeping it like, as written.
The one in the center of the page, not allowed, the 4-board fence. It doesn't look like a residential fence. It looks like a horse fence.
Rule, yeah.
I was thinking that too, like,
Yeah,
like.
And
keep-
so
yeah.
I
I
agree
agree
with
that it shouldn't be within the
okay.
city. The one on the right, I mean, to me, that's way too tall, but then that's in the back.
It would be the back, yeah.
The other one, I think, is ugly, personally, but that's
This
in the
one?
back. That one, yeah.
So we
Yeah.
would allow it with 5, so if this had 5 boards, like that's where we're gonna draw the line, basically.
5 boards or more.
Yeah,
Got it.
I mean,
That's groovy.
that's okay with you all?
Sure. Yep. I mean, for me,
Okay. Last question. Fences on a property that doesn't have a structure on it. Would you, I just want to confirm that this would be okay.
You're talking rear or anywhere? Anywhere.
So if a property doesn't have a structure on it, then there's no, so the yard definitions are contingent on there being a structure there. So the front yard is in front of the structure, the rear yard is behind the structure. If there's no structure on the property, it's vacant, but somebody wants to fence it, then we can't say like, this is your front yard and this is your rear yard.
It would be
You
a
don't
property
have-
line, right? They could
They
do it on
would-
the property
They
line.
would put it on the property line, but, so I think what we were thinking is that any front yard, any fence type that's allowed in the front yard should be allowed on a property without a structure. And then if somebody wants to build a fence that would be allowed in the rear yard on such a property, they would have to come to the board for approval for that. So, for example, at like this vacant property here, you could build a picket fence around it. Or like the 3.5-foot solid wood fence around it, with vertical boards. But if you wanted to build something like this, that's only allowed in the rear yard, and you wanted to put it all around the perimeter of the property, you'd have to come to the board.
I think it would have to come to the board.
Yep.
You know, that's something.
Okay,
But also, you know, I would think that even though there isn't a structure on it, that the, along whatever the road is, you
Okay.
know, the public road access would be the front of the property.
But I would agree they'd have to come to the
But I
before the
think,
board.
yeah, I think
Because it
it
might be a
really,
short-term fence, it could be a long-term, but they'd have to get that approved.
right, yeah.
okay, so if they're building a fence that's normally allowed in the front yard.
But that's
it's
outside
called
the
a permit.
parameters of what all the rest of it is.
Has this ever happened before? I don't remember it
Well,
ever happening before.
the reason it's came up is that we actually have a question in right now from someone.
That's usually what dictates rules anyway, right?
So, you know, we have a rule on
Somebody.
height,
6
already for, so, the citywide rule is that fences in the front yard or within 40 feet of the public right of way, whichever's less, have to be 3.5 feet max. And so that would apply here, so along the front property line, the fence could not be more than 3.5 feet. But as far as the type of fence and the material it's made out of, I wanted to make sure that you all had a say in that for the HRB policies.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, I think we have direction on those 4 items, so, that's all I had.
Wow,
Super.
Outstanding.
we're gonna,
Do we have to do anything with
Are
this?
you
Do we have to,
now-
We are looking for a vote. So the city commission would then take the final approved version from the HRB and adopt it by resolution on August 7th. And then we would also bring them the changes to chapter 1740. If you recall, we found some
Yep.
conflicting language in that chapter. And we've, that was at planning commission last night, and they recommended approval of the code amendment. And so that would go to city commission for August 7th, and then second reading on August 21st.
so you'd want us to make a motion on this tonight?
Yes, so you wouldn't need, we don't need a motion from you on the code amendments to chapter 1740, that's planning commission, city commission. But we do need a vote on the HRB policies, final version.
Let's see if we can get the wording right. Motion to recommend adoption by the city commission of the HRB policy changes, including those discussed tonight.
Okay,
In that case, I'll make that motion.
I'm just writing it down, give me 1 second.
I would second it.
Okay. All right. Board Member Stobie,
Aye.
Board Member Met, Board Member Basinger,
Aye.
and Chairman Coughlin.
Aye.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
ooh, that was a,
It's been a long one.
So then our final, well, our next thing is the minutes.
Yeah,
of May 22nd, June 26th of 2018, and July 24th of 2019. I can still vote if I wasn't there. Is that how it works?
you
We
can.
can vote as a group.
Yeah, so we can make one motion and one vote for the
Yeah.
package of 3 amendments, and even if you weren't on the board last year, or you weren't at the meeting,
I think we all
you
were.
can still vote to approve the minutes.
Yeah.
When did you?
Early 18.
Yeah, I think we were all there.
Been that long?
Yep.
Yeah.
Really?
Does anybody have any
I'm
issues
so
with it or want to make a
architecturally
motion?
challenged.
I move that we approve all minutes from May through, good heavens.
We have a meeting tomorrow.
Oh, sorry, I have a typo.
Yeah,
That's
I was
okay.
gonna say,
I
from May
wouldn't show up.
22nd, 2018 through July 23rd, 2019.
July
Sorry, that's not
20th.
even right.
No,
This
well,
should be
it's just the set of
2018, July.
2018.
So it should say.
Well, that's what I was looking at, I'm like, how come?
Sorry about that.
Okay, so let me start again. I move that we approve the minutes from the May 22nd, 2018, June 26th, 2018, and July 24th, 2018 minutes from the Historic Review Board meetings. Yay.
I'll second.
Okay, Board Member Selby.
Aye.
Ned.
Aye.
Board Member Basinger. And McLeod.
Aye. Aye.
Okay.
Is there anything else after that? Like number 7?
Communication.
The
you have
only communication I
communications?
have is that Thursday, August 22nd is the Volunteer Appreciation Night. So that's a concert in the park at EOT. This ticket gets you free reserved parking. Get there early if you want it. And a free dinner.
Come to
And-
the Optimist booth.
And there's musical entertainment by Johnny Limbo and the
Limbo,
Lugnuts.
And get there early, because it's usually
Yeah.
very well attended.
So get there a little early. Parking is kind of a mess, so you get if you bring this ticket, bring it, 'cause then you get your special parking space that's been
And-
reserved just for you. So this is for city board members and commission members who are all volunteers, and we really appreciate
This
your
is,
time and your work.
it's Thursday the 22nd?
Yes, it's the last concert. in this room.
And is there a meeting on the 20th?
So far, no.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Oh, I'll take one back for Grant.
Yes, I dig that name.
So we don't have any applications in at the moment for August. So unless we get something that needs to be heard on August, we won't have a meeting.
When's the deadline for submission?
Well, I think the deadline for application submission is today. So, but there are, we could get design advice or a grant application. If we do get that, I'm going to ask them if they are willing to wait till September. But if they're not, then we'll have an August meeting.
You will let us know.
Yeah.
Okay, then we can adjourn. Thanks,
Gee,
Ken, for everything.
You have
Thank you.
you have now set a precedent.
Oh, yeah?